Akane, a famous actress with a dark past, starts her day like any other. After a refreshing shower and getting ready for school, she hesitates as she opens the door, half expecting to find her fans waiting for her. But fortunately, it's just her chauffeur. Despite her success, Akane lives with some traumas. As a child, she was kidnapped by a crazed stalker, leading her to hide her true happiness behind a mask of kindness. She always pretends to be friendly with her schoolmates, but there's one person she can't stand: Kageno. Kageno is strange, sleepless, and seems to always call her by another name. Akane deeply hates him, and his indifference only fuels that animosity. One night after school, Akane is forced to walk home alone since her chauffeur doesn't answer. As she ventures into the darkness, she feels Kageno's gaze from above. Suddenly, some men intercept her. They've beaten her chauffeur and put her to sleep with a cloth soaked in chloroform. In her dreams, the image of Kageno appears, and Akane falls into darkness. She wakes up tied up, kidnapped again. These villains want her for a lucrative ransom, and they have malicious plans. But something is not right. A noise on the roof breaks the silence. It's Stylish Ruffian Player, a mysterious masked hero. The name Stylish Ruffian Player sounds ridiculous to the kidnappers, but that doesn't stop his righteous fury. One tries to shoot him, but with skill and precision, the mysterious hero throws a knife, knocks him to the ground, and crushes his head. Facing the next enemy, he reveals himself to be an ex-soldier. He arms himself with crowbars, his favorite weapons, previously used to beat up the problematic bikers at night. Like a shadowy vigilante, he defeats his enemy with an unforgettable beating. Then, carefully, he frees Akane, who, though grateful, can only watch as he disappears into the night. After calling the police and keeping the incident a secret at her father's insistence, Akane is left with the intriguing image of her savior in her mind. The next day, something changes. Kageno calls her by her name, looking her directly in the eyes for the first time. Akane sees something familiar in him, another life behind a mask. But the surprise doesn't last long, as the next day she learns of his tragic death in an accident. It turns out that from childhood, our protagonist dreamed of being a hero, just like many of us. He trained with determination, mastering numerous skills, but at school he was simply one of the crowd. But beware, he never abandoned his dream. He became a master of martial arts and learned magical spells, obsessed with becoming a shadowy eminence. Despite being human and feeling frustrated because of his limitations, everything changed when he was reborn into this world. Now he leads a group of girls and craves even more power. Forget about the conventional hero or the final boss in a story. He wants to be that mysterious figure operating in secret. But before we continue, let me explain how he got to this point. After dying in an accident, he's reborn as the son of a noble named Sid in a magical world. His family trains him as a dark knight, perfecting the art of sword fighting. His talented sister Claire overshadows him, but don't be fooled. Sid is incredibly powerful. He uses a special suit to fight from the shadows. One day, after defeating some bandits, he discovers a strange, cursed monster. Its power fascinates him, so he takes it home to experiment. After a month, he manages to free it from the curse, and surprise, it transforms into a little elf. Sid, concocting a fabricated story, persuades her to join his team, telling her she is the daughter of a hero cursed by the demon king Diablos. Now the main enemy is the cult of Diablos, and his mission is to thwart their plans from the shadows. But everything is a lie created by Sid. The elf, whom he names Alpha, believes it all. Together, they propose to create an organization called Shadow Garden. After 3 years of fencing practice with his sister, Sid has become pretty skilled. His prior martial arts training made beating her easy, but he preferred to play weak to maintain his role as a side character. His sister was about to join a new academy when they discover she's been kidnapped. Beth, one of his teammates, lets him know they're on the case. Over the years, their team has recruited various members, and they suspect the kidnapper belongs to the Devil's Cult, who took her because of her supposed heroic lineage. Sid, thinking it's all a game, randomly picks a place to search, but Beth puts 2 and 2 together, thinking they might be hiding her there. Even Sid isn't sure about this, though. Surprisingly, Sid's story turns out to be real. The Devil's Cult does exist, and they want to use his sister's blood to revive the Demon King. The Shadow Garden group, made up of 7 girls, intervenes, but after an epic fight, this guy escapes. Sid, after getting lost, finds the guy and duels with him in a sword fight. But Sid's just too powerful and finally beats him. His sister's rescue is a success, and she heads to the capital to attend the academy. Sid also wants to go to the capital, hoping to meet the main character of his story. He plans to train his team for 2 more years, but realizes they've decided to leave him. They explain that the Devil's Cult is a global organization, and he must fight against them. Sid thinks they left because they found out the cult didn't exist, but that doesn't stop him, and he continues on his path alone. 2 years later, Sid, now 15, is sent to the capital to study at the same academy as his sister. Here, social status matters a lot, and he, not wanting to stand out, sees himself as a side character. He befriends some equally insignificant nobles. Soon his friends inform him that as punishment for scoring the lowest on his exam, he must confess his love to Alexia, the most popular girl in school, and expect to be rejected. Alexia is an upper-class princess, famous for turning down suitors. But strangely, Sid isn't interested in standing out. He wants to go unnoticed. He prepares to be rejected, but to his surprise, Alexia agrees to be his girlfriend. He feels like he's suddenly entered the main plot of his story. Word of their romance spreads quickly, and everyone, including his friends, is shocked. Alexia shows up and sits next to Sid, stunning everyone with her royal presence. She wants them to take fencing classes together. Though Sid wants her to leave, she insists and has already reserved a spot for him in Section 1. When he arrives, Sid realizes that this section is much more serious, with Master Zenon as the instructor. After training, he finds out why Alexia accepted him. She wants to avoid marrying Zenon and chose Sid, so Zenon would leave her alone. Sid feels used, but she buys him with a gold coin, and he accepts since his parents' money isn't enough, allowing her to nickname him Pochi. The fake relationship with Alexia continues. Though she seems nice, she's actually cruel and selfish. She doesn't want to be with Zenon, who pretends to be perfect, and she doesn't believe anyone is without flaws. 2 weeks later, Alexia confesses on a train that she's frustrated for not matching her older sister's fencing skills. Sid, however, admits he likes her basic style. This angers her, as she thinks he's playing with her, and she decides to end their relationship. The next day, Sid's friends try to cheer him up, but he's not sad. His relationship with Alexia never mattered much to him. However, his day takes an unexpected turn when the Order of Knights intercepts him at the academy. Zenon informs him that Alexia didn't return to her dorm, and now Sid is the prime suspect. They need to interrogate him. Meanwhile, Alexia has been trapped in a cell by a mad scientist from the Devil's Cult who claims she has demon blood. He begins to extract her blood with a syringe while she remains indifferent and resilient. Back at the academy, Sid is tortured by the Knights, who mistreat him to make him confess Alexia's whereabouts. But Sid is resistant to pain, and curiously, he enjoys this sensation, befitting a background character. The scientist continues draining Alexia's blood, pushing her almost to the limit, but she refuses to give in. He gets distracted, recalling how someone destroyed his lab and ruined his research, but he still hopes to complete it with Alexia. The next day, Princess Iris, Alexia's sister, talks to Zenon about the situation. She's frustrated by the lack of staff to find her sister and wants Zenon to keep order in the academy. She looks out the window to see Sid's sister causing a commotion, demanding his release. This attitude makes her reflect on how everyone cares about their families. Iris remembers how she and Alexia used to practice together, but now they hardly speak. She decides to release Sid, although he will remain under surveillance. Despite being badly hurt, Sid decides not to heal his wounds, something a background character wouldn't do, and besides, he's being watched. As he walks home, Sid is approached by a mysterious girl who whispers to him, "See you soon." Shortly after, he meets up with his elf Alpha, who has come to help him with his problem. Alpha reveals that she has continued investigating the cult, and their organization's influence has grown enormously. Though Sid still doesn't believe in the cult's existence, Alpha informs him that they have Alexia, as she possesses the blood of heroes. Sid fails to understand his connection to Alexia, but Alpha insists that he rest and leave the case in the hands of his girls. Meanwhile, Alexia finds herself in a dire situation. Sid takes his rest as an opportunity to decorate his room, satisfied with having hunted down the bandits. That night, Beth arrives at his house, surprised and excited by his room and by reuniting with Sid. A total of 114 people have been summoned for the mission, and Sid thinks that's too many members. He plans to launch an attack on the Devil's Cult while looking for Alexia, leading the vanguard himself. As he steps out into the street, he runs into the knights who had mistreated him. They came to kill him, but Sid manages to take his revenge. The fight creates a commotion, and the scientist knows they are close. The scientist injects a creature with a prototype, but it transforms and crushes him. Alexia thinks it's the end for her, but the monster doesn't harm her. It only breaks her chains and sets her free. Alexia can't believe her luck and looks for a way out, but she runs into instructor Zenon. Zenon confesses that he hired someone to steal her blood and that it's all his fault. Though relieved that she doesn't have a date with him, Alexia is enraged to learn that he actually wanted her sister Iris's blood. Alexia tells him not to compare her with her sister, demonstrating with a skillful fencing move that she's no ordinary girl. Zenon notices that she copied that skill from her sister and decides to show her his hidden prowess. He moves so quickly that he snatches her sword, strikes her in the face, and declares that she'll never be equal to her sister. At that moment, Sid, the self-proclaimed shadow hunter, appears. Zenon thinks he won't be a problem, but Sid dodges his attack, surprising everyone. Meanwhile, in the city, the monster is causing chaos, and no one can defeat it because it regenerates its body. The situation becomes so critical that Princess Iris has to intervene. To defeat it, she has to destroy all its parts simultaneously, so she starts slashing at it with a series of cuts. At that instant, Alpha appears. She soars to the sky, charges an attack with her sword, and undoes the monster's curse. She collects her object and tells Iris, "Enjoy the show." Back with Sid, Zenon can't keep up. Sid blocks all attacks, making it clear that he's no match for him. While fighting, Alexia notices that Sid's sword skill is very ordinary, with a style similar to hers. She thought such a simple technique would never have a future, but Sid proves her wrong, and Alexia remembers that her sister likes her fencing. Sid reveals that he hides his identity because he belongs to the Shadow Garden. Then Zenon shows he's not playing around and decides to use a red pill that increases his strength, transforming into a monster. But Sid stops him easily, laughing at his power. He states that omnipotence through borrowed strength is worthless, and only unique talent matters. Sid creates a purple explosion so massive that it destroys the entire surface, leaving a giant hole. Alexia grabs her sword, realizing that her fencing is not as bad as it seemed. Her sister Iris arrives, thanking her for coming to look for her, and the next day Alexia meets with Sid to thank him and express her interest in resuming their relationship, but Sid flatly refuses to resume it, surprising her. Iris, suspicious of the Knight's Order since Zenon belonged to that organization and proved to be a follower of the Devil's Sect, gathers a new investigative team. They find a mysterious object as a clue and need someone to decipher it. A girl who was observing that same object bumps into Sid and they take each other's hands.